Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Coach's Corner University podcast. I am your host, Paul O'Need. And as always, we are sponsored by TC Nutrition. You can head over there for your batch 27, your complete isolate, and your amino light products that myself and all of our master athletic performance coaches and clients all know and trust. Use code TCXONEED. We're also sponsored by X Factor Labs. Use code ONEED over there for all of your peptide needs, We're also sponsored by Next Level Gear, or Next Level Strength Co. Use code ONEED over there. And then finally, Barefoot Shoes. You can use code ONEED over there to save. Today is a very interesting episode. I love the episodes where I don't actually have a previous relationship with the guest. Alan Howard was recommended to me by my great friend Jenna Switzer, whose podcast actually launched today on the channel. Alan is, by virtue of his bio, a very interesting man, has bought and sold 2 companies prior to starting his coaching business, traveled the world for over 6 years, and has been on a journey of self-discovery, living with an indigenous tribe, been to 20 plus countries, and even living in the pitch dark for a few days just to meet himself, as they say. Bringing in other coaches from outside the realm of strength and conditioning is very important to me because I think parallel thinking is paramount. Alan, welcome to the podcast.
Awesome, Paul. Thank you so much for having me, man. Looking forward to this.
I appreciate your patience as I fumble through my ad read.
No problem. No problem at all.
I cut it out for a long time, but I figured I'd bring it back. Listen, I want to talk first about living in a dark room by yourself. Because that sounds really scary.
It is. You know, it's kind of funny when I first heard about that experience, I thought like, okay, yeah, that's kind of tough. Maybe I'll just sleep a lot. But you've never seen darkness, or at least I had never seen darkness like that, to the point where literally you can wave your hand in front of your eye like this and you cannot see anything. It is so dark. And so you're living in that room for a few days. You got to find your way along the wall to find the bathroom. They kind of put food through a one-way little tunnel twice a day that you can eat. And so it was a really powerful experience. And I think for me, what topped it all off was I was currently going through like mercury poisoning at that time. So I didn't really have the ability to sleep. And so I was awake for the 48 hours I was in there.
Oh my
and
God.
I maybe slept 5 hours total over that time. And so it's crazy. By the end of 24 hours, I could even start seeing like visuals, like almost like if you've ever tried a plant medicine like mushrooms, I could start to see visuals by the end of 24 hours with no light. So very powerful experience. I learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about my relationship with self-love. And I'm happy to go into more of those too, if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's worth noting, like, any opportunity you can put yourself in uncomfortable situations, whether they're manufactured, like opting to sit in a dark room, or whether they are pursuing a goal that makes you feel scared. I think those are the opportunities that allow us to discover the true elements of who we are.
For sure.
And pressure test ourselves, right? Like, I think those challenging opportunities galvanize our identity, or they can show you that you're full of shit.
Yes.
What did you find out about yourself while you were going through that 48 hours of darkness?
Kind of both of those things, to be honest. One, that I'm full of shit, and two, that I have a different side of me I can connect to when things get hard. And the biggest takeaway I had in that space is I felt like I really learned what self-love means. And it was interesting what started to happen post 24 hours. I started to have visions of certain parts of my life. It's almost as if the things you've never dealt with just come to the surface, because even being in there for 3 or 4 hours of just sitting there, like the thing that's hard to recognize is there's no stimulation at all.
Right.
Zero stimulation. And so 6 hours feels like a day, 12 hours feels like 2 days. And you're just in there like I want to do something. And I noticed that I wanted to meditate. I wanted to do push-ups. And I told myself I wasn't going to do anything except just sit in it. And so the biggest thing for me that I saw is, what does it mean to to love myself. And this came through a vision with my father, something that never happened. But I had this vision of me sitting in an old school diner with my dad, and I was a kid, and I was playing, and I was having fun, and this old man stands up in the booth next to us, and he goes, can you shut that kid up?" And I could like feel it in my body when he said that. And then my dad goes, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, sit down, sit down." And then I didn't understand why I was seeing this vision. And then literally the exact same vision happened again, where I'm playing, and then the guy stands up and he's like, "Hey, shut that kid up." And then my dad stands up and goes, "Hey, don't speak to him like that. You sit down. He can play if he wants to." And I remember I just had this sense of love come over my body. And then what I took away in that moment is like, the core of self love is, am I willing to defend myself? And a recovering nice guy is something that I think most men have been, and I definitely was. And it was like, wow, I actually don't defend what I believe. I actually don't defend what I feel. So much of my life, speaking of being full of shit, so much of my life has been a chameleon to operate in the way that I know is best in this given situation to maybe get an end result I want, rather than for me to show up and say, "Hey, here's who I am." "Oh, you don't like this version of me? You don't like that? Okay, well, this is me."
That's
And
incredibly profound.
yeah, yeah, it was such a there was a lot of takeaways in that moment, but it was such a powerful understanding of like, because I meditate, I work out, I do all these things, and I thought like, self love. It for me for most of my life, it felt some like some yoga guy would talk about that, or some yoga chick would talk about that, and it was a little airy fairy. But
Mhm.
I recognize that actually the ability to love myself created a core confidence within myself and a protection of myself to be more of myself, which then allowed for greater creativity, greater expression, greater confidence, higher levels of testosterone as well. And
Mhm.
so that ability to really just say like, this is me, and I'm willing to defend who I am, not from like an arrogant like, this say something about me. I had a period of my life where it was like that too, but to really just like protect myself and defend myself was really, really freeing and really healing.
That's I mean, obviously I've never sat in a dark room, but there's been a lot of instances in my life where I've been faced with opportunities to look inward and kind of see who I am. One of the questions
Mhm.
that I ask myself often, and I ask a lot of the coaches that I work with often, is who are you? But you cannot use your hobbies, your work, your family, or your faith in the description. And the number
Mm,
of times I'm met with silence to that question is 100%.
yeah.
And I mean, whether you're talking about opportunities with regards to sensory deprivation or opportunities with regards to hardship, I think asking yourself who you are allows that like elevated level of fulfillment in the things that we do. And when you, as you were talking, I recently listened to a podcast with the CEO of Gymshark, and
Yeah.
he was talking about how Gymshark only tries to be Gymshark. They don't compare themselves to other people. They know who they are. They know who they serve, and their slogan of "We do gym" is exactly what he is trying to portray in everything that they do, and that speaks to a deep understanding of self. And the reason I bring that up is because I would love to kind of segue that into the fact that at this point in your life, when you went through this experience, you were already a very successful entrepreneur. You had already
Mhm.
bought and sold two businesses. What prompted this journey of self discovery if you had, for all intents and purposes, objectively already been successful?
Yeah, for me, I think ultimately that's been my life. And I loved your question, like, who are you? The first thing that came to me is like the essence of me, the
Mhm.
playfulness, the intensity, there's an essence to me that I can feel in those times of hardship and also in those times of immense joy. But maybe starting back in probably about 2011 or 2012 is when I really started my deeper into my journey of personal development. And so that journey has never stopped for me. I feel like it's really my, uh, it's just there's a compass inside me that leads me towards whatever I'm afraid of. And then I start going deeper into that thing. And for me, it started with recognizing I was this broke kid in college, trying to pay my way through college, trying to not live in my car. And so personal development was pushing me to learn how to make more money. And then once I started to make a little bit more money, personal development was pushing me to learn how to build better habits, and then eventually push me into uh, learning how to approach women, which was a really big, like, uh, open for me to understand myself and my shadow and all of that. But I think at the core, I'm actually forgetting your question. Can you tell me it one more time?
Well, just like, if you've been on this journey of personal development, you've already achieved objective
Mhm.
success.
Yeah,
Why go deeper?
yeah. Pain,
Okay.
and for me, I think I had a times in my life that were very rough as a kid, and I think once I first started to feel better through personal development, through connection to myself, it was just a never ending path that I've been walking. And so at that time when I did the darkroom, it was post selling my second business. I was going through a dark night of the soul in my
Okay.
life. And that was like, okay, I want to keep going deeper into myself to understand myself, to free myself. And that was really the driver, the motivator at that time.
Now, within your let's talk a little bit about, usually we start podcasts with like, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah,
But honestly, I couldn't help but just dive right into that.
I love it.
So let's talk a little bit about your coaching practice, because you mentioned in your bio, you're like, I have an uncanny ability to cut through the bullshit, which I fucking love because I am the world's best devil's advocate for my clients. I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm right there with you. So I'd love to know, tell me a little bit about your coaching practice, who you serve and how you serve them.
Yeah. So, you know, if you don't mind, I'd love to even tell you how I got into it because that can kind of answer some of those
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
questions.
yeah. 100%.
But I sold my business at the end of 2020, my second business. I actually didn't buy any businesses. I just sold two businesses that I built. And at the end of 2020, I sold that business. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I didn't have to work for a number of years. I'm living in this penthouse overlooking the ocean in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil.
Not
I'm
bad.
surfing. I'm going on dates. I'm having fun. And I'm like, this is awesome. What I don't know what I'm going to do next. I had a couple opportunities with some of my former clients in that business to start a business with them, a e-commerce jewelry brand for men. That seemed kind of interesting, and I'm in this like really beautiful place. But what started to happen is I started to wake up in the middle of the night at 3 or 4 a.m. with massive anxiety.
Mm,
And for me, I had elements of that in running my business, but I always thought it was the business. I always associated my mind to like, oh, this employee's leaving or this client might leave or I want to get this new big client. So there was always a pinpoint, but now I was having that same level of anxiety and fear, and I literally had nothing to worry about.
right.
The
You had it
money was
all.
in my account. I'm getting paid out for the next 2 years every single month. I'm like, what is here? And so it was the first time I saw through the illusion that my anxiety and my stress that I carried as an entrepreneur was so much deeper than whatever my mind linked to it. The
Right.
employee leaving, a client that might leave, trying to get a new client. It was like, okay, there's something else here that's been unaddressed. And so that really started my journey into a deepening of who I am past the bullshit of the anxiety and stress that I felt. Because I think for so many entrepreneurs, it's like, hey, when I get to 100K a month, when I get to 500K a month, when I get to a million a month, then I'm going to be chill. Then I'm going to enjoy life. Then I'm going to relax. And I saw so deeply through that illusion where I'm like, I literally don't have to do anything for the next couple of years. I can sit here and do nothing and I'm still anxious and I'm still scared. And
Yep.
so as I started working through that, and for years I'd done therapy, I'd done plant medicines, I had done the personal, I had been meditating for 10 years. I'd done all the personal development checklist things, but there was something deeper that was coming up. And it was really I call it a dark night of the soul. It's really like me purging stuff that had been in my body and stuff
Mhm.
that had been in my family lineage for years, that it was like I was the vessel that was now coming through. And so that was a incredibly trying time. But as I started to work through my own journey of that, I had a mentor of mine who said, like, hey man, you're kind of just living for your own pleasure and then working through your own shit. Maybe take a little time to see if you can give back to people. And I
Hmm.
said, okay, well, that's interesting. And so uh, I just decided, okay, let me post on my story. I had a little bit of a following from one of my former businesses, and I posted on my story, like, hey guys, if anyone needs help in these areas of your life, I'd love to do a call with you, see if I can be of assistance. I've just been chilling for 3 months and doing nothing except hanging out on a beach and going on dates. And so people reached out to me, 14 book calls. I got my first call. It was a coach who had been a coach for Tony Robbins for 9 years. And he thought, I'm going to hop on this phone call and Alan's going to help me with my coaching business. And it was crazy, Paul, because the moment we hopped on that call, I told myself, I'm not going to do any research. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to let the moment play as the moment needs to play. And so we got on the call, and it was like I felt this, my intuition just knew what to do, knew what to say, knew what to do. It was just like I was in flow state completely with him. And we get to the end of the call, and he's like, hey, man, this was really powerful. I would love to pay for your coaching. How much do you charge? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I've never done this. I've never charged for coaching. And so uh, I told him, I said, hey, this is the rate, we build at my agency. Maybe I'll just bill you that. He's like, okay, well, you're really good. That's way too little. You should charge more, but charge me that, charge the next guy. I'm telling you to
Smart
charge.
man.
So yeah, so he became client number one. Hopped on the next call, and I went 3 for 3 on my first calls. And so for me, there was like an alignment there that flowed so much more naturally than my previous businesses. And then for me, that was like, okay, there's something here because this is just happening through me rather than
Mm.
me like grinding away at my e-commerce business or grinding away at my agency that I had to build and sell. It was just like, oh, whoa, I have a unique ability that is being used through these calls. It feels good for me. It nourishes me. And I'm just like getting clients not meaning to. And so to go into what I do to answer the question you were asking, um, I feel like I'm a tuning fork for my clients into their authenticity. And so when I'm on a call with my clients, the people I serve are typically entrepreneurs. Most of the time, it's 7, 8, and 9 figure entrepreneurs. Sometimes I'm working with guys at a lower level as well. But it's me really feeling, hearing, and listening to what they're expressing and saying and helping them tune into that authentic version of them. And that can be done through kind of deeper therapy practice, a lot of trauma release. That can be done through me calling bullshit. That can be done for me challenging it. But I feel like it's a tuning fork that I can listen to into those calls and really bring relief and connection to self and align them closer to who they are. And the beautiful thing about that alignment that I see, as soon as people get aligned to who they are, the business flows better,
Always.
the
Yep.
joy is there, the relationship gets better. And so it's really just about tuning into who they are, feeling it in my body, bringing more of that man out to, or woman out to the world. And the more that's done, the more money they make, the more joy they have, the more peace they have. And so that's what I do.
I absolutely love that. And the thing that jumped out to me was that authentic self. And I think a lot of the coaches, especially in the fitness space, they get caught into playing this caricature. This caricature of an influencer or someone who is playing a role on social media to try and get attention. And this kind of plays back into your story of finding out who you were and like that deeper sense of self. They almost lose that, or they actually never discover it because they're trying to be someone else. They
Yes.
lose the connection to their client, they lose the connection to their business. They're not able to serve at a high level, and ultimately they end up feeling what they refer to as burnout,
Yes.
but they never actually light a fire because they never tune into what their true authentic self actually wants to serve people with.
Yes.
um and the majority of the people listening, like you're mentioning, like 7, 8, 9 figures, yes, people can make that in coaching, but the majority of the people that we're serving are, that 5 to 20K a month kind
Cool.
of neighborhood.
Awesome. Awesome.
What would
We
be
can
sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was just saying we can speak to that.
Yeah.
I'm
So
happy to speak to that too.
what would be your advice to that person who's maybe on their way up and still trying to find their way? Like, how do they go about starting to figure out who they are?
Yeah. The beautiful thing about that is we all have a guiding mechanism in ourselves, and that guiding mechanism, that compass within ourself, is always leading us. So like there's an inkling, right? I used to work in a 9 to 5 job, and for 6 years I dreamed about being out in the world, traveling, building my own businesses, all of that, and ultimately I didn't have enough confidence to do it. I was waiting for someone to come along and be like, "You can do it," and eventually my body was wrecked. So then I had to do it because I had to listen to it. And so I think everyone has a certain guiding force that is taking them in a direction, but ultimately the blocker we always hit is our self-belief. And
Hmm.
so, for me, when I was in the 9 to 5 job, I wanted to be out building my business, but my blocker was I didn't believe I could actually do it. So I'd end up on my parents' couch in a little rundown apartment. And I didn't want to be there at 26 or 27. So I avoided it. I avoided it. And eventually I had to face the demon in the mirror, which was that I didn't think I was smart enough to actually be able to create a business. And so we are guided to certain things. When we tune out the noise enough, there's a feeling of something that we're guided to do. And then ultimately, the thing that blocks us is we get into the mind of like, oh, well, I'm going to do it when I'm ready. I'm going to do it when I have more money saved. I'm going to do it more when this thing is here. And it's really that voice. It's connecting to that deeper, still voice that wants to do something that we don't feel ready for. And
Hmm.
so for coaches, like sounds like who you work with and who you help mentor, there might be a certain type of content or certain way they want to do content that for them feels really fucking scary.
Hmm.
And that's usually the compass, is the thing they fear, and the thing that they're going to do one day when they're ready is the thing they do now. And the cool thing about working with guys at a higher level is I've just seen like the dudes who are 8-figure entrepreneurs who've built a really solid business, not just scaled a bunch of ads, like they've really built a solid business. I give them something hard to do and they're like, okay, cool. Execution. They do it.
Yep.
They have broken the ego enough. They know who they are enough that they're willing to look like a fucking fool and have their face planted in the mud by taking
Hmm.
the action on the thing that they're doing. And so it's really just, I feel I should go this direction. Let me trust that feeling and let me act upon it. And I might fall on my face and I might look stupid and I might look arrogant or egotistical, whatever it may be. And it's that courage that is really the missing piece for so many entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One of my favorite quotes that I've read recently was, amateurs wait for the perfect time, professionals get shit done.
Love
And
that.
that quote resonated with me because there's no attachment to outcome. It's just, I'm either waiting or I'm doing. And I've always been of the mind that I'm not going to get any evidence of success until I actually put something out into the world. So
There.
why would I delay putting something out into the world? How egotistical am I that I believe I know what people want more than they do?
Yes.
So not being afraid to make mistakes, and in fact even calling them mistakes, I think is a misnomer, because it's just data. It's not it's not attached to your sense of self,
Yes.
because you're just trying to do your best.
There we go. Which goes
The
back to
Yeah.
self-love and self-care, to because you need someone on your side. So it's got to be you, and if it's not going to be them, it's got to be you. So yeah, I agree. Keep going on that on the tangent, though I interrupted you.
No, I think it's something that people need to hear, because the fear of failure stops more success than anything else.
Yes. Completely.
When you're getting started though, that fear of failure is almost existential because you don't have capital, you don't have recurring revenue, and a potential misstep could spell the end of the business. How do you reconcile that with, that entrepreneur who's like just getting their feet on the ground?
Yeah. It's really interesting because that is like I had a good buddy that him and I go back and forth. He coaches me, I coach him, and he was recently on the Joe Rogan podcast. And
Oh,
right
wow.
before he went on the podcast, he was at the point in his life where he was not willing to, like, he knew this is the direction his coaching business needed to go. Like, he
Hmm.
knew it. And he knew for him that creating content was no longer an alignment for him. He knew that for him, he only wanted to work with professional athletes. And at the same time, he's building a house in a foreign country. He has a house in an expensive city in America. And he just sat with the tension. It was like he's got kids, he's got a wife. It was like it was ripping him apart. But he knew deep down in his belly, like, this is the way I need to go. And so I watched this man's savings and money dwindle down for the last year and a half to 2 years while he stayed true to his authentic path. And literally the week before Joe Rogan sent him an email and asked him to be on the podcast, his construction, the guy who was building his home in this foreign country said, I'm going to stop building the home if I don't get payment by next week. And so he's just living this truth of like, I'm only going to do what's really aligned to me, gets this message, coaching business blows up, book becomes an Amazon bestseller. He's like, in it, but it's there's a level of tension that you have to sit through as an entrepreneur, which takes a calming of your nervous system to be willing to say, I'm going to hold true to that which I know, even if I don't know where that paycheck's going to come. And I think
Hmm.
that's the scariest thing to do. What he was doing, right? He's got a house he's paying for. He's got a wife. He's got kids. He's got another house that's being built that he doesn't have any money to pay for. And he's like, dude, I am at my end, and I'm literally going to wait for the miracle to happen. And that miracle for him ended up being an email for Joe Rogan that completely changed his business, where he is now in alignment, only doing what he had to do without creating the content or doing the things that weren't aligned to him. And so I think so much of the entrepreneur journey is, can you stay true to what you really believe, even when you feel like I'm going to be ripped apart, or I'm going to be out on the street, or I'm going to be broke, or I'm going to have to get rid of my apartment? It's when we're in alignment, I've just seen miracles happen so many times for clients where if they can stay on that edge and be willing to sacrifice it all, oftentimes the universe or God or whoever it is gives a really beautiful gift, which is them actually having the success they want.
I love stories like that. The pragmatic person in me kind of just says like, hey, for every story like that, how many stories go the opposite direction?
Yep.
But here's the caveat is I think if you truly look at those stories that go in the opposite direction, the alignment is missing.
Yes.
And I also come back to the notion that even if you build a quote unquote successful business, what marker of success are we looking at? Like what KPIs are we looking at? Are we looking at top line revenue, or are we looking at you waking up in the morning and loving what you do every day?
Yes.
The another question that I ask a lot of my mentees, like, what's your definition of success? Like, at what point will you look at your life and say, I am successful? And this is a question I ask myself often. And so my definition of success, I've shared it. I don't know if I've actually shared it on the podcast, but it's, I want to be able to do what I love with who I love, when I want to, where I want to.
Love it.
And I look at my life right now and I make really good money. I make more money now than I ever thought that I would in a coaching business. I serve amazing people. My entire business exists on my laptop. Myself and my wife and our business make enough money that we can travel wherever we want to and just bring our laptops and do it. So
Yeah.
how far away am I from being successful? I mean, I'm not booking trips to Ibiza or Tokyo or, stuff
Not
like
yet,
that.
baby.
But not yet. But we're on the path. Like we're not far from what we would define as successful. And
Yeah.
I think if more people actually had clear definitions of what their KPIs are, it would allow them to be more in alignment, as you mentioned. Because if you're shooting for a target that you can't conceptualize objectively, how are you going to know if you're in alignment or not?
Yes. Yeah. I think it ultimately comes back to that feeling within your body. Like, I know the seasons when I'm in deep alignment, it's like I feel so connected to myself.
Hmm.
I wake up, my sleep's good. I wake up, I'm hard. I wake up, I have life force energy coming through me in the day. There's this feeling of like, you know, and I don't have to pop open a gratitude journal and write 10 things to try and convince myself that I'm enjoying my life.
Don't get
It's
me
just
started.
it's just oozing out of me because I am in alignment. And I think the thing that I just find so powerful is alignment. Like, being really aligned to that inner child, that inner adult, that higher king energy in us, and just like working through that. But so much of the tension as an entrepreneur is like, I should do the head thinking, I should do this thing because it's going to be good for my business, versus there's this quiet, still voice in me that wants to go here. And most of entrepreneurship at a lower level is following the head one
Hmm.
versus the actual internal feeling one. And the reason why the head one feels safer is because other people have done it, or other people say this is the safe way to go. And the deeper underlying voice one is like, I'm not sure. I don't know what's going to happen on step 3 or 5 or 6 or whatever else. So there's more risk. And the more as entrepreneurs we can really hone into following that second voice, that still voice that's scary, and using courage and fear as the compass, I just see that that creates a deeper level of relationship with ourselves too, where it's like, if you look back on your life, Paul, I'm sure like the biggest and most difficult challenges you got through built your confidence that you can sit back on the most. And
Oh,
so it's like,
absolutely.
how do we continue to have that just be part of our life rather than like the few times we did in our life, right? It's like always being willing to walk that edge of courage is such an important thing for a human being, and especially an entrepreneur. That's the business I believe we're in.
I think as well, I was at a business mastermind recently. We were talking about how to create a moat around your business. So if your business was a castle, what protects your business? And in this day and age of artificial intelligence and all the different advents of technology, your expertise isn't necessarily as valuable as it used to be. And when you look at the things that create security around your business, your brand is the number one thing that will protect your business, because no one can steal your stories, your experiences.
Yes.
And if you're able to share those things with people, share the lessons along the way, you become an entity in and of yourself and become more connected to your audience. But you can't do that unless you have a deep understanding of who you are. And
Yes.
you mentioned like elements of my life that have, galvanized my identity. uh, the audience is very familiar. About a year and a half ago, or a year and a half ago, 13 and a half months ago, I tore both my quads. And,
Mm,
sitting in a hospital bed, looking at my wife. You know, we've been married for a year at that point. And I'm like, wow, I just cashed in my in sickness and in health within the first year. And I knew in that moment, I was like, this isn't the hardest thing I've ever done. So it's just time to do what I do, because I had a deep understanding of who I am. And that made that entire experience much easier. And I just used it as an opportunity to galvanize that identity. And the business only grew. I only got more fulfillment. Our relationship was deeper through that
wow.
process. Oh man, it was, yeah, like I can say without question that I'm truly grateful for that experience now. In the moment, it super sucked, but
Oh, I bet.
the reason I bring that up is one of the things that I find myself referencing quite often with my mentees and with my clients is the avoidance of bad emotions. And I use the word
Mm,
bad in quotations, because there is no good or bad. You make it so. Why do we have this propensity to avoid those uncomfortable emotions rather than sit in them, be grateful for them, and use them as opportunities?
yeah. Yeah, I can speak for myself personally. I've seen that it's uncomfortable in the body. It creates tension in the body with those bad emotions, and if we're not aware, if we don't bring a certain level of awareness to that,
Hmm.
um, we can do things like emotional eating. We can do things like scrolling on the phone too much. It's like
Right.
it's the avoidance of that is just it's just a way to deal with it rather than actually creating the space and the safety to feel it. And so I
Hmm.
think most people they're just not aware, right? They avoid it because it feels uncomfortable, and so it's easier to open a beer, have a Pop Tart than it is to actually sit with that. Or, for a lot of guys, it's easier to go sleep with a random woman than it is to actually sit with the uncomfortableness of like being alone and in
Yep.
their own space and energy. So I think it's that personally. I would love to hear your thoughts too.
I agree. I think we seek to dissociate rather than to understand. I've always been a very pragmatic person. I've always been one to seek understanding. So the idea of sitting in my emotions, especially recently, like I've gone through a lot of therapy, which I'm quite open about and I advocate for, the opportunity to learn more about, okay, you're having these feelings. These feelings make you feel tense, they make you feel uncomfortable. What does that mean? Well, first, why am I having them? How do I feel about my feelings? And that was a big one for me is I call them meta emotions.
Yes.
It's like I feel this way and then I feel this way about the fact that I'm feeling this way. And then you get in this vicious cycle. But once you get to the point where you
Feelings overload, right?
feelings overload, man, it was brutal. But now I can sit in it and be like, okay, why do I feel this way? What behaviors are those triggering? And then making sure that my thoughts, feelings, and actions align with who I am and what I
Mm,
ultimately want to achieve in my life. And that stillness you mentioned, that ability to just sit there and be uncomfortable has been almost a superpower for me.
mm,
The caveat there is that because I do that, a lot of the people that I interact with find me unemotional because I'm so objective about my emotions now.
mm.
It's been an interesting thing because people expect you to react a certain way, but you don't react, you respond. And I've
Interesting.
noticed,
Yeah.
I've noticed that in high achievers, and maybe you can speak to this with your experience working with high achievers, is I find that the highest achievers respond, they don't react.
Mm, yes, I agree with that. I think they respond, but I think even before they respond, they feel.
Hmm.
I think the superpower is the ability to let emotions feel through you and then respond. So like, the reacting is like, oh, that hurt. I'm going to lash out. And sometimes the responding is like, I'm not going to feel it until later. And I think the real superpower is I'm going to fully feel the pain of this situation or the sadness of this situation. I'm going to be with it. And then I'm going to respond once I've actually fully felt it. And I think sometimes a lot of medium achievers, they feel it, they don't fully feel it, and then they respond based upon what they think they should respond with, which is a mental construct rather than a really deep, full body and embodied fuck yes response. And so I think that's the real power, or else we're kind of just delaying things for some future where we're going to finally feel the emotion. And the buildup of that usually leads to things like injury, sickness, explosion, impotence, because they haven't felt things for a long time and it's there, right? Frustration or conflict in the relationship. And so I'm a big believer in fully feeling things and fully like being in the emotion for a time period
Hmm.
until I've processed the emotion. And it's funny for a lot of guys, right? I grew up, I was an athlete, I was a D1 wrestler in college. Like it was very much like turn off your emotions, fucking lock in, like
Yep.
let's go, get it done no matter what. And I love that. There's a part of me that absolutely loves that energy, that absolutely loves the intensity, the masculinity of that. But I've just found over the years that my ability to actually fully feel the emotion, let it live through me. Maybe I'm a basket case for 15 to 30 minutes and I'm crying. Okay, cool. and then now I'm going to respond. There's just a greater power because there's more authenticity coming up and out of my body through that situation. So that's how I look at it.
I love that you mentioned the dichotomy there. That true dichotomy of almost like animalistic, violent aggression that is a very masculine trait, right? To be
Yes.
able to just turn everything off and execute is incredibly valuable. But just like anything, there are two sides to the coin because too much of that energy will lead to a lack of alignment. But
Completely.
again, if you dive too far into the emotions, you ruminate, you lose the ability to execute. So you have to be able to toggle along that spectrum from one to the other in the appropriate ways, and that requires a lot of emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I run into with many of my clients, mostly the male ones, which I think is interesting, is they'll if they're far enough along in their journey, they'll feel the feelings, they'll process the emotions, but then they don't like the outcome of the processing, and that's where they get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example just
Please.
for the audience to conceptualize. I have a mentee who is absolutely crushing on all levels. He set a goal for himself to double his income monthly. He's been doing all of the things, the outreach, the social media. He's getting more in alignment with who he is, and his service quality has come up. His systems, he's doing everything. But now he's also prepping for a bodybuilding show. So his energy levels have dipped. He's looking at his ability to output is coming down. So he's feeling like a failure. Objectively speaking, if you were to look at that, you say, well, my energy levels are coming down. I need to lower the floor of my non negotiable business tasks every day so that I can shift my focus temporarily to this bodybuilding show for 3 weeks. And then I'm going to recalibrate, bring up my non negotiable business tasks as my energy levels come up. Very simple solution. It's
Mm-hmm.
in alignment with your goals. It's in alignment with the fact that you actually did just reach that double income goal, which is fantastic. Why do you feel like a failure because you have to pull back?
Mm, powerful.
What are your thoughts there?
Because his identity is built upon achievement and not
Hmm.
on actually who he is.
I said the
And so,
exact same thing.
yep. Hmm.
It's almost like a transactional relationship of self-love with yourself.
Yes.
That is perhaps one of the biggest challenges as a man, I think. And maybe I'm generalizing, and the audience will definitely let me know in the comments. But I think as a man, we are taught very early on in our lives that achievement leads to love.
Yes.
Achievement leads to validation.
Yes.
Ultimately, for me, what I've come to realize is I am Sisyphus. I am pushing a rock up a hill, and every
Hmm.
day that rock rolls down. But as Albert Camus says, we have to imagine that Sisyphus is smiling because he has purpose in pushing his rock up a hill. So as
Yes.
long as long as I'm pushing my rock up a hill, I'm a happy camper. I don't really care about the outcomes, or if I have to push the rock up a different path, or if the rock comes to a stop because there's an impediment in the way. I'm just pushing my rock up the hill, and that makes me really, really stoked.
Yes. Who do you think you would be if you weren't pushing the rock up the hill?
I'd probably be someone looking for a rock. I,
Interesting.
yeah, I'm the thing with the analogy with the rock for me is that I choose my rock,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
that rock is in alignment with my values. That rock is in alignment with the like kind of adjunct goals in my life. An example would be one of the rocks I push up a hill is my personal fitness.
Hmm.
But my personal fitness is rooted in the fact that, I've been a specialist in my athletic career for 15, 17 years now. And I need to become a generalist because my goal is to be the most present and engaged father I can be. And that requires me to be able to get on the floor and play with my kids when I'm blessed with the opportunity to have them. So I'm going to push that rock up the hill, and it's going to be fun because it's in alignment with me. And I think helping young men learn to be more process oriented is perhaps one of the greatest gifts that we can give them, rather than being so outcome oriented, because it
Yeah.
removes a lot of the external pressure.
Mm-hmm. Completely. Completely. Being in the process, trusting it, enjoying that. There's a lot of maturity and intelligence that comes through that, for sure.
With high level entrepreneurship, I mean, all of us wish or are working towards scaling our businesses, reaching next levels of achievement. With those high level entrepreneurs that are dealing with boards of directors, investors, a
Mm-hmm.
ton of external pressure, what are some strategies that maybe we can learn from those who are most successful in maintaining alignment that we could apply now to kind of block out those external pressures?
Yeah, I think that one of the things I see is that the entrepreneurs that really stay grounded to themselves, even when they have the board, and it's so interesting. I just went through this with one of my clients, New York based company, and the board's trying to push him to do something. And one of the I think one of the biggest hacks in life for any man to understand is that um, most people just want someone to lead, and they want someone with certainty. And so the board's pushing the company a certain way, and he came in, he grounded into what was true for him, and he came into with certainty. And the board's like, okay, cool, yeah, let's go that way. But it starts with us being bought in on our own vision and our own path. And we've talked a little bit about this in this call, but it's really about like I think so much of it is about anchoring into the feeling of who you are, understanding who you are, and trusting your gut instinct. And the more you do that, the more you compound self confidence, where you can go into an idea and it can sound crazy to everyone else except yourself, but you've already gone through that same trial and tribulation 10,000 times in your life. And so there's such a grounding and a belief that reaches down to your ball sack and you can feel it. And it's like, this is the way we go. The whole world's telling me something different. This is the way we go. And so I think it's all an internal game. Like it's all a game about deepening our relationship with self and overcoming self. And one of my favorite quotes is Zeno, who was the mentor to Aristotle. He talks about once a man conquers himself, he can conquer the world. And so he says that Lao Tzu, Confucius, all of them, even in the Bible, everything comes back to that same thing. If we can conquer ourselves, we can conquer the world. And so I think so much of the path for entrepreneurs and men in general and women too is figuring out what is that next uncomfortable area and then let
Yeah.
me go into it. And it's funny that you were talking about, pushing the rock up the hill and that analogy, because the last year and a half for me, I realized that so much of my confidence was built upon my productivity, my
Mm-hmm.
ability to create good content, my ability for my business to grow, my ability to be in shape. And so a year and a half ago, um, until the last few months, I stopped creating content. I stopped working out. I stopped like taking on a bunch of new clients. I just cut away everything that gave me external validation and confidence. And then I went to Bali. That's kind of how I connected deeper with Jenna, who introduced us. And I sat through 6 months, especially in that time in Bali, where I just wasn't doing those things. Maybe working out once a week, but like just seeing I'm getting fatter, seeing my business is going down, seeing that I'm not being as productive. And man, I can tell you that was the one of the hardest paths I took to
Mm.
deepen who I am and my understanding of myself. It's really easy for me to love myself when I'm executing on my goals. It's really easy
Yeah.
for me to love myself when I'm in shape, when I'm seeing the Stripe monthly thing go up month over month. And this is not a journey for everyone, right? Because I think I go to deeper depths and I bring back the knowledge I have for the people I work with. But this was definitely my journey to say, what is it like when I get a little skinny fat? What is it like when I'm not making as much money as last year or the year before? What is it like when I'm not creating content where I get validation? I'm literally just doing way less. Holy shit, man. That is a hard place to sit as a type A person who loves achievement and accomplishment. So, but for me personally, that's the path I want to choose because that was the scariest thing for me. the scariest thing for me was to cut off those things. And now it's changed my relationship with myself. Now I'm back to growing the business. I'm back to creating content, but it's like, there's a confidence where you can take it all away. You can take the business away. You can take the body away. You can take everything away. And can I look in the mirror and know, I know that man and I believe in that man. And I think that's like the ultimate for us as men, to really always be checking, what am I resting my identity and confidence on? And how can I start to push into that in a way that I build it within myself? So, um,
I like
yeah.
that. I want to keep going on the identity piece. But I'm going to bring a
Mhm.
frame about more so focused on like habits and structure. So one of the things that we deal with a lot with clients, I deal a lot with my mentees, is the element of motivation and discipline. Okay. And people usually look at that as kind of a stepping stone where you have this initial motivation, whether that be intrinsic or extrinsic. Typically, motivation is extrinsic for most people. Then you have this element of discipline. And so people will look at someone like myself who, using this last year as an example. So 13 months, I went from wheelchair to bodybuilding stage with the best physique I've ever had. And that was a
Let's
year.
go.
Yeah, fucking right, bro. Um,
That's awesome.
that was a year of checking every single box. So no missed rehab sessions, no missed meals, no missed supplements, no missed anything, no missed steps. So that proved, number one, to me that a lot can be accomplished when you check all the boxes.
Mhm.
The discrepancy in the perception of my work was, wow, Paul must be so disciplined. That required zero discipline on my part because I am someone who checks the boxes. So for me, we talked about galvanizing your identity. I've started to frame it as discipline is the interim between motivation and identity. You use
Love that.
motivation to start a habit. The discipline is the maintenance of the habit until you adopt the identity of someone who just does that thing. And then it's brushing your teeth after that.
Yes.
And that habit could be something very complex, like, well, right now I'm training 2 or 3 times a day, but I love training. So I don't really care. And it doesn't take me any discipline. The only thing that is disciplined about that process is the fact that I schedule it in my calendar.
Mhm.
But I'm also someone who's extremely organized. So that's part of it too. Um,
Yes.
what's your take on motivation, discipline, identity? How do those three categories kind of interact with one another, maybe in the context of those high achieving individuals?
Yeah. I think the end goal eventually is to get to a place of such a deep connection with self that uh, the identity can be more fluid and
Mm,
the discipline doesn't actually have to be there.
yeah.
And so I'll give you an example. Like for me, for years with wrestling, you have to be very disciplined on your diet. You have to be like locked in, lockstep on everything. Um, but what I realize is that when I can actually learn to build deeper levels of self trust and connection with myself, I could actually wake up on a day and say, my body's actually communicating to me, it's not right to work out today.
Mhm.
And then what immediately happens is my mind goes, oh, but if I miss a day like this, then I'm going to miss other days. And then, oh my gosh, this might be a sliding. It's fear based. The
Yep.
underlying energy is fear based, but there's a level past discipline and motivation that I think is way more powerful. And that's just deep connection with self. And it's the willingness to trust that I'm being guided to the correct place for myself when I'm really connected to myself. And so that sounds really great on the positive side of like, I'm not going to go to the gym today. I can tell my body is like really communicating to me, like, this isn't the day for it. Let me trust that that is fine to do. But I have to live that same way when I'm in a conversation with someone. And I think someone said something that's bullshit and I'm at a dinner party and my intuition says, tell her what she said was bullshit. So the ability to live by the sword means I also have to be willing to die by the sword. And so I find that that level of operating, I think, is a much higher level than a previous level I had, which was like being very disciplined and doing all this. And there's certain stages in life, but there's a flowiness and a funness and an energy that I get to live from where I don't have to kind of live like a robot. And
Mhm.
man, I had all the fucking habit checking spreadsheets and the accountability partners, and we'd get on calls and we'd look at my habits for the last week and their habits and all of that. And it's like the more that I let go of all that and I live in flow, which is fucking scary to do, the more that like it doesn't make sense to me that I stopped content at the end of 2023 when I was producing 3 a week, and then all of a sudden my business doubled in 2024. That makes no sense to me.
Mhm.
But that was a reflection of an energy coming up and out of me that was more alive and more full of life than
Mhm.
me being like, I got to keep doing these things. And so my view is different. I don't hear other people talk about this. I don't see other people encouraging because it's hard to encourage this. It's hard to tell someone, hey, just go off your gut feel on how you want to live. That's scary. Um, and so, yeah, that's kind of my view on it now. Is my view on it, it's a little bit different. It's like, if I can really be in alignment with the future I want, which I even focus less on now, I'm more like, I think I know where I want to go, but I'm going to let my body guide me. And I find that life becomes more like a dance or more like sex than it does like a strategic da 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 da. You know, it's like, how do you have the best sex? You go into a bedroom
In the
and
moment.
maybe we're gonna do, well, yeah, we're gonna do a missionary for 5 minutes, and then we're gonna switch to something else for 5.29 seconds, and then we're gonna do, it's like all of that is disconnected from life. And so if I can live a life that is more in the moment, which I'll tell you is scary as fuck, because you have to be willing to live in the moment, not just when the moment says don't go to the gym that day. You have to be willing to live in the moment when the thing is scary to say or do as well. And that's kind of the dance that I'm interested in. It's the dance I push a lot of my clients who, trust me, have been the type A guys to like go from nothing to the Ferrari in the garage and the $25 million mansion, but they're miserable, and to live with more peace and love and flow. And that comes from developing deeper and deeper levels of self trust. And so that's why that last time period for me of like, I'm going to start being lazy. I'm going to not create content. I'm going to not work with a bunch of clients. I'm going to cut off all external validation. I'm going to find internal validation from myself and see how that shifts my business. And it completely changed the power and magnitude that I show up with my clients. And so I can charge way more for way less time and do way less work and enjoy my life more.
That there's an element in there that really spoke to me. It's the element of trust. And trust, I think, is something in ourselves. Well, in any relationship, trust is very, very easy to break. One of the things that comes with trust is there has to be an anchor. So you mentioned trusting the voice inside of you, trusting your internal compass, trusting that, deep feeling in your balls. There has to be something that you anchor that feeling to. And and I think for most of us, we can't get to that point of trust until we've found the breaking point. At least for most men. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I've found my breaking point in many areas of my life. I have exploded my quads. I found my physical breaking point. I have had, legitimate burnout. I have found my emotional and professional breaking points. I've found my breaking points in relationships. And it's because of having that anchor that I'm able to better trust that internal dialogue, because it's warning me of what's to come based on
Yep.
past experiences. As you're coaching people through this, I would assume these high level entrepreneurs can anchor that feeling. What if somebody hasn't had those breaking points?
It's a great question. Ideally for me with them is it's staying connected to what brings more life energy into them. And so, yeah,
Mm.
you can anchor into the breaking point, or you can anchor into joy. And it's like,
Ooh, I like that.
what really brings that deeper level of joy and excitement. And so I'll tell you a story. entrepreneur that I was working with um, last year and into this year as well. And he was running a business of doing like 2 million a month. And
Oof.
he was so dialed in and felt he had to be so dialed in for his employees, like so on a certain amount of calls, like crushing it. And the thing that I really encourage him to do is he likes to dance salsa. I said, start incorporating salsa and paddle, two things you like, into your day. I want you to do them every day. No, well, I can't because this and that and all this stuff. And we really fought that fear, right? The underlying energy of a lot of his habits was he was so scared to not be the dude he wants to be. And so that fear is what's actually fueling it. And so we started to change and switch the fuel source to a fuel source of joy and alignment and connection. I just talked to him. His business did like 4.5 million last month. This is like 6 months later. He's doubled his business. He's been working way less. He's been way more connected to himself, which allows him to show up as a leader with more energy, more joy, more passion.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's so interesting. You've probably seen this too, but like your your energy, your business is a reflection of your energy.
100%.
Your business is a reflection of that. And so if he can be loving life more, and if he can be in more joy and more excitement, his business is going to be a reflection of that. And so it doesn't even make sense from A plus B equals C point. It's not that. There's something bigger here. There's an energy here where it really affects the whole entity of the business. And so the way I look at businesses is I look at it as an energetic entity. Like it's a part of you, and however you pulse and beat in the universe, your business is a reflection of that. And you can see businesses that have a ton of monetary success, but the founder is like just it's all grind. And then you go into the inside of the business and everyone in there is like grinding and sad and depressed. And the way I look at anything I run is I want the business to just be a reflection of like this greater joy, love for life, and excitement and alignment, more so than like, oh, I got to do this. And so I want to bring it back to one other point. A lot of times when we're looking at discipline, the mindset and frame we're coming from is like, I'm a lazy piece of shit that needs to be disciplined.
100%. Yes.
If left to my own devices, I will be fat, lazy, and stupid. And
Mm-hmm.
so most type A business owners are coming from that mindset. And so we talk about trust and relationship with self. If you treated your partner like they're a lazy, stupid piece of shit that you need to monitor and manage all the time, how much life is going to be living through that human, right? But we do the same thing to ourselves. If I'm not hitting my spreadsheet checklist and all this stuff, like I'm a lazy piece of shit. I know it. So the underlying energy of this entire interaction between me and myself is shame, guilt, pressure, and not enoughness. Where if I can switch the fuel source that I operate from, it can be an energy coming into the business and into myself of like, I wake up that day, oh man, I'm actually feeling off. I know I'm the type of dude who can fucking push it. Going
Oh
back to
yeah.
your earlier point, you need to know your breaking point, right? You need to do some things in your life to know that. But then that is not the operating system to live from. And this is where most, I call it type 2 entrepreneurs, get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
They learn how to grind, right? You can even see it with like a guy like Alex Hermosi. Love the dude, great content, puts out great business, all that stuff. But like, look at him really when he talks. How much does he enjoy his life? How much joy do you see emanating from him? Is he going to be fun to sit there and hang out with and talk with? Like you can feel the energy of the person. And so for me, it's like if I get stuck in type 2 is like, I'm just going to keep going deeper and deeper into treating myself like a fucking robot of productivity, or I can move to type 3. And type 3 is I don't think I'm a piece of shit. I think I'm fucking amazing. I think I'm awesome. I live from joy. That means sometimes I'm gonna miss a couple of my things, but I'm going to come through with a different energy that allows, maybe I miss the workout, maybe I miss the macros one day, but I'm going to come through with a different energy because I'm not using shame and guilt as my motivator for the days I missed. I'm actually grounding into a mature decision that I made as a human being to eat the fucking cake on the day that I probably should not eat the cake. And when you actually live from this place of embodiment, man, that what it does to your testosterone levels is crazy. Like at 27, doing the same workout, having the same diet. Give me 1 second. Hey guys, can you just quiet down a little bit? I'm gonna call. Thank you. Um, Same diet, same workout routine. At 27, my testosterone was around 500. At 33, my testosterone is 985. I'm almost at 1,000. I take zero supplements. It's like that is an indicator to me. And you can even put in the show notes. I have a video around testosterone that I do. It's like an indicator to me that I'm being more free to be me. I'm like opening up this thing where now life can live through me at a different level and a different capacity, where I'm not like this fucking slave to my things. I'm like this empowered person that can make the decisions. And when I make the decision to eat the junk food that day, I own it. When I make the decision to not go to the gym that day, I own that. And then I know I'll go tomorrow and I'll fucking crush it in a way that I didn't crush it that day. And so that's where the self-trust comes in, to like actually let the inner part of me live and trust that it knows what it's fucking doing.
Dude, I love that. I love that. Let's finish off. Like, this is a great way to finish off. I always like to ask a couple quick hit questions to my guest. What is your PR song? You're in the gym, bars loaded. What are you listening to?
Oh man. Should Have Been a Cowboy by Toby Keith.
All right. That's different than I usually get. Usually I get like hardcore gangster rap or metal.
I bet. Yeah, there's something about that. It's like it's chill, it's calm. I can kind of relax into that calmness and then just push it in a hard way.
I love it. If you had a billboard on the side of the highway for everyone to read with a message on it, what would it say?
Trust your gut. Fuck what they think.
That might be the title of the podcast. Last question. This is where I get you to do my job for me. If there's anyone that you would like to see me interview on the podcast, who would it be? But the caveat is that you have to help me get them on.
Let me think about this for a second. My good buddy Max, who's also a former client of mine, who works in the fitness space, but he's a coach. He's a great dude. I got some he had this amazing peak this year, and I feel like he's kind of right in line with where a lot of your clients are, and he could just talk about what transformed for him to go from this to that, and it was all internal stuff.
I love it. I'd love an introduction.
Yep.
Alan, man, this was a phenomenal conversation. It was very, very smooth, very easy. I think the message is going to resonate with a lot of people who are truly trying to find themselves and figure out what's going to allow them to grow. Where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me on my Instagram. It's just Alan _Howard, AlanHoward, or my website, the-path.com, or YouTube, Coach Alan Howard.
Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you everyone for listening. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and we'll catch you on the next one.